3, 2, 1, and here we go again. And we have reset the settings and we've got something new. Hey, 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 hey. I am live streaming. So why is the video unavailable? Testing. Hey, happy do, happy. Da 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 da. Ya ta 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 ta. Remember that one? Ya ta. Ya da 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 da. Green leaves. Da 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 da. If you can remember that meme. My lord, I'm quoting memes that are older than my audience. Now, whenever you hear your grandparents talk about this newfangled stuff, this is what they're talking about, okay? Because to me, the internet is still new. I mean, Twitter is still kind of newish. All these new programs that they're throwing at me, like Discord, I'm still not sure what purpose exactly this Discord program serves. It seems to be some sort of chat channel that gamers can use, but the games I play already have chat channels, and I'm not exactly certain of the point. I'm assuming that Discord provides extra utilities, extra service, extra features and stuff that you don't get in the regular chat. But I haven't figured them out. I don't even use it. I just applied to it because it's one of the requirements to be in my World of Warcraft guild. I don't even know how to use it properly. I just this makes no sense. I'm like one of those monkeys with at the open of 2001 with the giant obelisk standing in front of them. Can't make sense of it. Okay, we have an audience of 1. I have no idea how late. It appears that the ideal hour for me to do these live streams is about 5 in the afternoon. So naturally, I waited until midnight. But 5 in the afternoon is probably 4 or 5 in the afternoon is probably the best hour to get an audience. Don't know what to say to that. Well, the live stream health seems to have improved. Might have something to do with me actually knowing what the ding-dang-dong settings mean. They finally posted a thing up here, it says, your resolution is too small. You're telling me that's the problem? Your resolution is too small. And I look over here and it said, your output resolution is, 960 by blah, blah, blah. It should be 1280 by 720. And I go, okay. So I open up my program and reset it so that I'm broadcasting it, and now the video output is too low. Again. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Okay, look. I have cable, okay? I have cable internet. That is the best you can get without being obscenely rich or having a company that pays for it. I am neither of those things. So, look, dear Google, head, extract head from rectum. Then program the system, okay? Ever since Google took over, yeah, nobody's already old fart talking. ever since Google took over YouTube, it's gone down the dumper. You know, this. These are strange. I don't even know what's new to the new kids anymore. I don't. I don't. I mean, I've always been out of date. I thought Little House on the Prairie was like a contemporary family drama when when we were watching as a kid. I figured there were people out in the countryside that ran around wearing bonnets and getting around by horse. I was not a very socially aware kind of kid. But, oh man. I can't begin to explain to you how strange it is. It's a door everybody goes through, but nobody understands until they're on the other side. And yet we all know. Okay, we all know that nobody understands what it's like to be old, right? We all know nobody understands what it's like to be old until they actually are old. We also know that there is no way we can explain it to the younger generation in a way that they'll really, really get it, that they'll really understand. They'll have an inkling. They'll have an they'll sort of have an approximate picture, but they will not understand. And yet at the same time, and we're getting kind of meta here, at the same time, we know that, everybody knows that when we reach this age, we are going to do the exact same thing. We are going to do the exact same thing that our parents did. Struggle to explain to our children and to our, to the younger generation what is happening to us in terms they understand, and failing at it. There really doesn't seem to be anything I can do for the buffering. There really isn't. It's just YouTube's lousy service. Substandard. They don't think they owe anything to the people who create the content that makes them rich. And yes, I count too. I'm sorry, there is a guy out there that has like several hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and all he does is film videos of himself smoking a pipe. Literally, every new video is one of him smoking a pipe. That's it. But he has thousands of people watching him, which is basically revenue for the people that own YouTube, because it means ads, it means, all these other things. I'm not, beyond ads, I'm really not sure how companies like this generate their money. But, they are. Consider the fact that Facebook is a quote-unquote free service, but they are still making money hand over the fist. This fact, the fact that you have companies like Facebook that provide their main service free, yet still make millions and millions of dollars. It sort of throws into doubt the whole idea of these other companies, like like the RIAA, or the people in charge of movies, or in charge of they say if these people who are making copies of our music off the radio, they're starving us to death. Let's put it this way: the people working in the recording industry could give away their music for free, and they would still be able to make themselves rich. Facebook has demonstrated that. It has broken the paradigm. It is demonstrated that it is possible to get obscenely rich obscenely powerful, and obscenely unliked at the same time, even giving away your stuff for free. So there's two lessons there. One, you don't need to squeeze your customers for literally every single penny. You provide a service, they will come. They will use it, and they will leave money behind. If you're smart about how you set things up. And two, even if you give your stuff away for free, they're still going to hate your guts. This is an important. Those are two important lessons, and flip sides of the coin. And you think about it, this is a lesson that so many people need to learn. Politicians, for example, politicians desperately need to learn that no matter how much free stuff you give them, they're still going to hate you. Yeah, this is a big one. I think the Democrats, all these politicians in the Democrat Party, they think that they don't quite seem to get that it's not the freebies that make people like a politician. It's the fact that a politician does his job and butts out of their life. That's all That's two things. That's all. The only thing we want out of a politician. That's all we want out of somebody in government. That they will do their job well and not bother us. Unfortunately, we got too many politicians who think their job is to bother us, to interfere with our day-to-day lives, to obstruct our rights. They think that the penny ante services they provide are more important than the duties they are supposed to perform, which is rather like running a bank and bankrupting yourself, trying to make sure that the mint tray next to the pens is full. Yeah. Now here's something for you to think about. I have over the course of my life, I have had many banks over the years. I have many banks. I've had service from many banks over the years, many bank accounts. Now, there's only one. I can't remember the name. I believe they're all First Federal, First National, Bank One this. Any combination of the number one, a word denotating something. State, country, or county, or whatever, denoting a geographic location, and the word bank. That's how you pick out a name for a bank. But this one bank was when I was living in South Charleston. It was a ridiculous. It turned out, I went to get an account there because it was right across the shopping center from where I was working at the time. It was a ridiculous, the main bank was a ridiculous distance from where I actually lived. But I liked that bank, and I liked it from the moment I walked in. And I'll tell you why. You know why? You know why I like that bank so much? And I still think that bank is probably the best bank because from the moment I walked through the front door, attitude, entirely different attitude. It was near their grand opening. It was the first few months of business, but I walked in, I looked in there, and the lady behind the counter, I was looking scruffy. I mean, rough, scruffy. I just gotten off of work and I was dressed in crap. And I was just a teenage. I was like 18, 19 years old. So I didn't look like nothing. I wasn't no high roller. And there was a lady sitting right in the lobby. She, you came in, and instead of walking straight in, you walked into a little lobby, a little hallway, and that branched off. One side went to the offices, the other went to where the main banking area. And I walked in. There's a desk right there, and there was a nice lady. She was dressed to the nines. I mean, she looked like she ran the place. And she was like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she was, "Oh, no, yeah, you came to open an account? Just go over this way." And she's so nice. I said, "Okay, that's one." And I walked in, I looked up, and there was a teller at every window. I think they had 3 or 4 windows. They had 4 tellers at 4 windows. When's the last time you saw a grocery store that had 1 cashier at each cash register? But when's the last time you saw a bank like that? No, you never see that. I'm like, dude, bing, I like this already. And I'll walk up to the counter and I say, I'm looking to open a bank account. And he say, "Okay, here you go. Here's some forms you need to fill out, and here's some pens. You know how the bank is. The bank has got 1 pen at these counters with a chain on it. Think about that. A pen on a chain. Even back in the day when ballpoint pens were 20. There was a day when ballpoint pens first came out, they were a luxury item, and they cost something like, I believe, like $15. Back in the day when $15 was like close to a week's wages. Crazy. But even then, they could have had, they could have afforded losing a dozen pens a day. They're a bank. They're a bank. What do they got the pen on a chain for? But I looked at her, and she's, oh, here's a pen, and she pushed out this little box. It was filled with pens. With the bank's name on, click, 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 very nice pens. She said, "Oh, okay." And I said, I wrote it out, I filled it all in. She said, "Oh, keep the pen." Like, ding, you're my bank. You, my bank. My home my home is in the economy. Yay. Okay, I can't do anything hip. I can't make anything sound hip. But I say the reason the pen thing got to me. I mean, this is the first time I saw a bank that did that. This is the first time I saw a bank that had a person at every teller window. This is the first time that I saw I went to a bank that the first person who greeted me, even though I was a scruffy nobody, treated me. I've been at several banks. I mean, they're polite, but they almost have like this radiant aura of, where are the people with the real money? But no. Even though they're polite and everything, they just got this. Oh, I'm dealing with the lower income people today. Oh, and it's just like their feet hurt all the time. But no, they were nice to me. They provided this. They made sure that the service was available at high tide and low tide. They didn't pull this crap where they had people clocking in and out just to try and save a few bucks. Again, they're a bank. They had, they weren't stingy with the dang pens. If they were smart enough to know that you walk out with a pen in your pocket, you got a pen with their name on it and a smile on your face. That's advertising, free advertising, and it costs you what? A mass-produced ballpoint pen? Come on! And the reason it's come up to, I used to work at a store. It was it was man, over the course of my stupidity known as youth, uh, I worked at a pharmacy for a while, and one of the things they did, they were doing a motivational seminar. We all came in, we sat down, we watched a video. They were too cheap to have somebody come speak to us, at our store. They sent a video of somebody else, but this was a talk. Farrell's Ice Cream, Farrell. Farrell's Ice Cream. At one point, Farrell's Ice Cream was a nationwide chain. It was the name in ice cream parlors. The name. In fact, the guy that ran it, he made such a success of it that the company itself it got sold something like 3 times, and each time the people that bought it, they kept up the Farrell's traditions, and the company actually grew under each person that bought it. But it all came to an end when that third fatal purchaser decided they were going to cut corners. They were going to cut corners, and they started shaving things back, cutting out some of the things that had made Farrell's famous, like their birthday sundaes. Yeah, it was a thing. Farrell's was one of the first restaurants to do this. If it was your birthday, that you got a free sundae. And the whole chain did that. And if people ask for a little extra, they do just all the little things. And this guy, Mr. Farrell, he went on. He retired. He was a multi-billionaire, and he retired. But he went on to do motivational speaking to businesses and companies on how to make your business grow, how to make a customer service company prosperous. And he showed people the rules that he lived by while he was running Farrell's. And the man very well impressed me. He said one of the things he said is that he hated it. He hated going into the bank because they're so stingy. Can you think of anything more stingy than taking a crappy pen with almost no ink and putting it on a chain? Right from the moment you walk in, you're treated like a thief, basically. He hated that, and he said, he was a consultant. He said one bank asked him to, come in and look over things and make some suggestions. He said he walked over to the check counter, grabbed the pen, and snapped the chain, and the girl behind the counter nearly had a heart attack. She didn't think about it. She nearly had a heart attack because he was going to walk off with her nearly worthless ink pen. He said, see, this is an illustration of getting all your principles wrong. And it's so wrong that you don't even realize how ridiculous it is. He went on, and he said, another thing is so stingy. And he said, the customers, he used to go to his one burger place. He used to go to his one burger place all the time. Ate there all the time. It was one of the big chains. And he'd ask for an extra pickle on his burger. That's all. Just an extra pickle on his burger. They'd put the extra pickle on it, no problem. And then one day he went in, and apparently somebody decided to call in the corporate experts and tighten up the ship, because he came in there, could I have an extra pickle? And the girl behind the counter just froze. She said, I'll have to ask my manager. And she turned around and she asked her manager, and there was a big debate that went on for like 5 minutes over whether or not to give this guy an extra freaking pickle. And we're not talking, big gherkin or anything, just a little slice of pickle. and he said, okay, it'll be 5 cents extra. He said he never went back there again. He said, this is the principle. Give them the pickle. It costs you so little. It costs you next to nothing. But the goodwill you get is worth a fortune. And he looked at these people and he said, just, he said having a positive attitude, caring about making sure the customer get that little bit extra to make them happier to come back. Give them a little extra topping on their sundae. Give them give them the dang pickle. I'm like, I'm sitting there in the front row. I dealt with. We've all dealt with it, but even at that age, I dealt with just uptight people running restaurants. You just stingy. And you ask for anything, any break in their routine was you were treated like customer. I've dealt with these companies and restaurants and grocers. They treat the customer as if anything they asked for was what's the term? The word escapes me. An impingement, just too much to ask, as if they were interfering with the person's real job, and terrible policy. And here I am sitting here. There's a local restaurant. I love Smitty's Pizza. I love Smitty's Pizza because, frankly, because they have more than just pizza, and I can actually, order, an actual sandwich with veggies on it, or salad, or any of a number of different food items, so I can eat and live, and not just, eat pizza, until I turn into one, but. But even they do this. The individual workers, nice guys. The guys that deliver the pizza and deliver the food, they, nice, friendly. But here you got the company again. Company rules. You ask for extra veggies on your sub. Now Subway. You go to Subway. You ask for veggies, they'll just slather them on. At least they used to. I don't know what they're doing now, but Smitty's, if you ask for, that charge you for you ask for extra pickle on your sub, ding, 50 cents extra. 50 cents extra for those pickles. If you're pinching pennies that hard, here's a guess why. You're not making enough. We have to cut back because we're not making enough money. Here's a guess why you're not making enough money. It's because you're being so penny pinching with your customers. Good night, But they're not the only one. I mean, everybody does it now, and it's so sad to see. You guys, you get a yogurt cone or something, ask for some sprinkles on top, and they'll tack 50 cents. They're not helping anyone. They're not helping themselves either. They just, my word, It's gotten to the point where if people go in and order an extra large because they expect to be chiseled. They seriously do. Yeah, I mean, I've done it. I mean, until I know a restaurant, until I know that particular place and how the people behind the counter work, I assumed If I ask for something, I better ask for for a large or extra large, because they'll try and chisel you. That's the assumption I make when I go in. So much so that when I get a decent size, a decent size one, they'll come in. Here's a large, and you come in. It's like this. It's you ask for a large sandwich, and it comes in on its own forklift. You're like, whoa! This is probably part of the reason that people overeat so much, because they expect, they go out, they're trying to, they're counting all their pennies, and they expect that a small wouldn't feed their 8-year-old. And then they get this great big huge, and then they get this great big huge sandwich, and they're like, I gotta eat the whole thing, or I'll waste money. Anyway, it's excuse me, but. But man, it's just one of those things that's crossing my mind lately. These companies have forgotten. These companies have forgotten that they become a beloved company. They become popular and well loved by their customer base, because they give their customer base something that the others do not. When you get parsimonious with what it is that you give out, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You look at the movie industry. The movie industry, it's like everybody from Hollywood down is wearing a strap on, and they're on a perpetual quest to screw something. Or someone. The movie makers utterly shaft the people that run the movie theaters. Get them over a rail so that their profit margins are almost zero. You got this movie that's making billions of dollars, and they're trying to screw over the people that distribute it. I mean, just how greedy and stupid can you be? I love the fact that these people criticize capitalism, but they've never been within a screaming distance of actual open market practices. They've spent their entire lives cheating and bilking each other, and everybody below them. So they think that that's how capitalism works. So they go out and they make all these movies that praise the glories of socialism. But which they would never live under. If America became socialist tomorrow, before the day ended, every private jet in Hollywood and Washington D.C. would be headed for some Mediterranean or equatorial country with no extradition treaty. But like I was saying, they screw over the movie theaters, but the movie theaters are shooting themselves in the foot too. They're talking about the movie industry is just destroying itself. Well, first of all, because their movies suck, but the reason they're having so much money, you look at the you go into a movie theater. You go into a movie theater. You want to sit down. You want to watch a movie. You want to have some popcorn. You want to have a soda, and you need to take out a loan and use a couple of internal organs as collateral to make a purchase of a couple of crappy boxes of jujubes. If they were smart, if they had the IQ of a gerbil, they would run the theater. They would keep keep the ticket prices about the same, and they would sell the popcorn cheap. They would give the customers, they would keep the prices the same, triple the size. They could do it too. It's just a matter of changing where they get their products from. They get these stupid little movie theater boxes of candy. They're packaged to be 90% air. And gee, they charge, their solution to not selling enough candy or popcorn or soda to make their profits. That's where all their profits come from. That's where these movie theaters, the theater, not the movie company. The movie theater, your local movie theater, is getting hosed by Hollywood just the same as everybody else. But if they had Brain One, they would sell the little theater would sell. They would take their popcorn and sell it dirt cheap. What happens when you sell popcorn and candy and soda dirt cheap? People guzzle it. They would spend more buying the cheap stuff than they dare to spend on the expensive stuff. But if they had taken economics courses, they wouldn't be working in movie theaters. But their solution, the ongoing solution in every movie theater that is in danger of closing down because they're not selling enough popcorn, is to raise the price of the popcorn. They think that somehow magically that we only sell, we need to sell 100 boxes a day of popcorn. We only sell 50 boxes. Let's double the price of the popcorn. Because somehow they'll keep buying 50 boxes of popcorn. No. You fail at economics forever. You fail economics. You fail economics forever. Now, the age of the tone-deaf company. I think it's reached the point where these big mega corporations, they've made so much money that they don't have to listen to the top layers of the company don't think they have to listen to the customers anymore. They figure that even if the company, all these people are making the big decisions, they figure, I've got my private jet warming up its engines on the runway. If things go south, I've got a quick ticket out of here. I've got my bank account in Switzerland and my beachfront mansion on some unnamed island out in the Mediterranean, out in the tropics. I can be gone in a minute. So who cares what happens? Anyways, it's just not. One real sarcastic ass once said, it's a shame that All the people who really know how to run the country are instead driving taxi cabs and shining shoes. Of course, that's the sort of saying you get from an arrogant, elitist news company snot who has forgotten that, this is America. The taxi cab drivers and shoe shiners do run the country. At least we do when things are being run right. It's supposed to be our country. Anyway, I've been seeing some news articles lately of all companies to be worried about anything. Blizzard, there's all sorts of news going around, gossip and rumors that Blizzard, morale in the company is tanking, and not just because of this big blunder, this big mistake they made with Diablo for what is it? Diablo Infinite or Eternal? Diablo Infinite. With this big huge mistake they made with going to mobile platform. We're talking a real new Coke kind of bad decision there. We've been running on this franchise for 20 years now. We've been running this franchise for umpty years now, based off of desktop computers, and we have a loyal fan base of millions of computer game players, PC game players. So let's dump them and try and nudge into the same market as Candy Crush. Yeah, they're not going to. They're going to have the same problem that new Coke had. They are not going to get the people who play Candy Crush to switch over to play Diablo on their cell phone. They have lost. They are not going to be able to bring their old fan base over happily and loyally to the new platform. So they've got nothing. They've got nothing, and they're going to get less than nothing. And it really, I saw a video of the announcement. Oh man, they bombed it. I mean, talk about tone deaf. Really, really tone deaf. He's talking to a room full of people who have been loyal PC gamers for decades, and he announces, we're announcing the Diablo Infinite for cell phone, and one of the people are, what about the PC? We've been waiting for Diablo 3 forever. He says, oh, we have no plans to go to PC again. And everybody started booing. Gee, I can't imagine why. And then he turns around and he says, verbatim, what? He says, what? You people don't have phones? Yes, you conceited jackass. I have a phone. I don't happen to have several $100s to throw down on a phone just to play your frickin' game, though. I'm not going to, yes, I have a phone. I use it to call people. I mean, I thought that Joe Quesada with his snide remarks about Spider-Man fans was tone deaf, and that's being generous. But this guy, oh jeez, Yeah. You know, just abandon your core fan base, and then basically insult them and imply that they're cheap because they don't go out and spend $500 on a cell phone. Jackass. Sitting there, I can just see this guy sitting at home with his playing his overrated game on a cell phone, on his cell phone, going, I wonder what the poor people are doing today. Yeah, that's the game. That's the gameplay experience I want. Squinty eyes and sore thumbs. Yeah, I'm just falling all over myself for that. Yeah, I had to shut down the stream and restart it. The thing finally gave me some information that I could use. Apparently, the resolution setting was too low, so I fixed it. Me fix. So it's more or less working. I'm sorry, just starting and stopping here, but yeah. Maybe this is just my maybe this is just my impression of things. But it seems like most of the entertainment industry is. I think it's not just the entertainment industry. I think it's many companies and corporations. They've reached a point where they don't think they have to listen to their core constituency anymore. Or maybe they're afraid to. That's another possibility, is that we live in such a politically correct age that these people are falling all over themselves, trying to please people for fear, a grossly misplaced fear that they'll say nasty words and cost them their business. They have seriously overestimated the power and influence that the social justice warrior crowd actually has. The leftist ideologues and tub thumpers. They're throwing a tantrum. They're throwing a tantrum, and like a distressed babysitter. They're terrified that some other adult will hear the child throwing a tantrum and cause them trouble. Nobody cares, okay? No, look, dear Disney, nobody cares what the feminists think. Go ahead and make your movies the way they ought to be. Quality. Quit listening to these people. Start listening to the people who, buy the tickets. And don't be dumb enough to think that you're outgrowing your fan base, okay? You got these people that point out, the average comic book, the age of the average comic book reader has gone up. That means they're getting old and dying off. No, not even close. Okay? First of all that means is that they got more money now. Listen closer. Second of all, if you provide a good quality product, I'm sorry, the attributes that made 1970s Star Wars and 1960s Spider-Man and all these old franchises, the people haven't changed, okay? Uh, the nature of the story still appeals to them. The things that made Spider-Man great in the 1960s when he was first introduced are the things that make him great today. Good character, good writing. The same, people haven't changed. There are some things that have changed in our culture, but the people in the culture are still the same. We still have the same wants, the same needs, the same passions, the same desires, the same motivations, and we hunger for the same qualities and values in our entertainment as we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So a kid reading the comics back in the 1950s or 60s is the same, it's the same creature that reads them now. And they're not going to, you're not going to get a lot of kids because you're dealing with those PC crap that no kid gives a crap about anyway, and if they and the older ones don't agree with. I remember they did an episode of The Simpsons where Marge got fed up with how violent, how she got upset at how violent the Itchy and Scratchy show was that her kids watched, and so she basically started a one woman crusade to get them to change, and they folded like wet toast. And they started doing all they started doing Itchy and Scratchy show, they let her dictate the scripts and everything, and right down the line, everything she asked for, and it was so banal and insipid that none of the kids watched it anymore. The message they intended was exactly the opposite. You kids need to go out and get in the sunshine and run around and paint fences like Mark Twain. The parents still work under the delusion that if you shove a kid outdoors, suddenly he'll turn into Tom Sawyer. The reason The reason our grandparents ran around and played with frogs and climbed trees, first of all, because it was still legal to. You try and put a frog in a jar now, the EPA will show up and arrest you. And second of all, because they had nothing else. They're getting all torqued up out of shape because the kids are sitting inside in front of a computer talking, communicating with people halfway around the globe. Learning things about the world that, were a mystery just a few short decades ago. And, they rather than adjust with this and adjust accordingly, they try and make the kids change back into the golden children of yesteryear, which never was. It's incredibly tiresome. When I was your age. Yeah. Everybody reaches an age where they're absolutely convinced our generation respected their parents. Yeah. No, you didn't. You got your butts blistered for disrespecting them. A lot more. But no, you had the same disrespect for your parents back in the 1920s as they do today. You were just more shut-mouthed about it around the adults. Nothing so charming as people trying to put a halo on their childhood photos. I don't know what to do about the live. Here, maybe I'll post another one here. Let me post another one, just in case everybody's clicking on the other one and it's. Post to Facebook. There we go. Yay! It's cold. A little chilly. My pen. Oh great! I set down my stencil and then I lost it. Here we go. Here's my stylus. Let's see. Now, let's switch over. Let's do some drawing here. Let's get some drawing done. Let's finish up this. Turn it up. Open. Okay, so why is that on the bottom instead of on the top? There we go. That's a little better. Yippee-ki-yay! Yippee-ki-yay-oh! Yippee-ki-yay! Whoa! Oy vey! Whoa, whoosh, woof. Pardon. That was necessary for the safety of all concerned. Emergency gas venting. Uh, I still haven't gotten those pen tips re-uploaded. I've got so many things half done. Just now, I've said it before that the people that took over the Star Trek franchise, I have to say their reboot was probably, well, inevitable and necessary. If they, they already Star Trek has been well. Uh, Inconsistent, technologically speaking, and it's just I'm not sure quite how to put it. They've been going on for so many years. They had so many regenerations and reboots and rebirths of the franchise that the final somebody finally going, this is enough. Let's trim all the fat and start over from scratch was kind of inevitable. Even if other people don't see it that way, it was sort of inevitable because anyway, I'm trying to think here, and I'm losing the plot here. Uh, Trouble thinking. This is my mistake. I waited too long to start the broadcast today or tonight, and as always. Feeling rather tired. What was there I was wanting to talk about? Oh, well, anyway, it's just that too many inconsistencies, too many cooks spoil the broth. Uh, and basically you need to go back and start from scratch, get a new show Bible and the whole works. So they did a whole time travel thing in that one movie, Some, at the next convention, some no neck's going to stand up and say, but But according to continuity, it says that this, and this has to happen. And the guy standing there says, not anymore, it doesn't. But, well, this was unlike many of these reinventions that you see going on. A lot of what was done to Star Trek was basically just necessity. Cleaning the slate. Mm. 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 Forgive me. I'm getting a little fuzzy right now. I'm going to be drifting for a little bit for another half hour. So when I'm sleep deprived, it tends to be a sort of a drop off in my coherence as time goes by, about like the speed of a family Yugo going on a family trip. Hmm. Yes. Mm. Ow, 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 ow. Now, one of the details about the Star Trek franchises is that it did not age well. Okay, and its flaws, its originally installed flaws, showed through rather quickly. Now, suppose you were in the position of, say, Q, and your job was to analyze the people of Star Trek The Next Generation to see how far humanity had come from its early space days. You would be stumped at how poorly these settlers in the 24th century had managed to get through all the way to the 25th, because Excuse me. But, you look at this world. You come back. You point out. You sit down with Picard and you point out a couple of things. First of all, you say, "Look, we basically gave you free reign here, and you've done nothing. No, literally nothing. You've had no major wars that you weren't capable of handling quite readily by yourself." First of all, look at the Star Trek franchise. You look at the technology in the early show in the 23rd. They're supposed to be in the 23rd century, and in the new Next Generation, the 24th century. It's been close. It's supposed to have been like something like 80 years, somewhere between 80 years and 100 years between the time of the first Enterprise and the current one. And the only real advancement they've shown in their technology, after being exposed to thousands of alien races, many of which had far superior technology, was to no, they have not developed anything. The major difference is their ships are a little faster, and and most everything has touch screens and the corners are rounded. How very iPhone of you. Steve Jobs would be so proud. Well, in the end, you see them, everything they do as if there had been really no real improvement in their technology at all. And in fact, there's a gaping chasm where, for all these years that they've been exploring, even during the original airing, all the years they spent exploring and encountering insanely advanced technology. Advanced and powerful, and yet they have never incorporated it into their own culture. They never progress. There's little functional difference between the technology of the first Enterprise and the technology of, what was it, the sixth? Now, you look at their culture, their art, their poetry, their music, their theatrics, and then that's even worse. Not only you look in the average Star Trek ship, you look around, you don't see any signs. Even the ships that have families on them, they don't have any signs in their personal quarters of any of these things. It look their most what is their most, they have no current music, they have no current art, they have no current theater, no movies. They and the culture and writing and such that they dig up for their hobbies and for their and in order to enable them to portray someone abandoned in the corridors of time, is to show time as a sort of a room. But I'm sorry, I'm wandering here. I think I babbled the last few couple of sentences, but they've the first Star Trek. Every episode they encountered technology that should have been paradigm shifting, and nothing happened. It was status quo again. And I'm sorry. Let's not get meta. Let's not talk about how status quo is God. We'll talk about that later. We're now talk about it as if we're discussing the virtues of the Star Trek universe. They have had generations. They have countless times. And what's more, like I said, their culture. What are they entertaining themselves with? Books and plays and music that were centuries old, even in the 20th century. They have nothing current in their culture, and that's says some very ominous things. Either that they have so little imagination and creativity that they cannot. And I'm sorry, even that doesn't follow through, because they obviously are intelligent beings. Or that there is something in their society that automatically, negates anything new or any sort of any sort of change. Hmm. It's short there, but the Star Trek universe is uh, populated populated at the pinnacle of their society, as you know. Now, the reason one of the things you have to consider, you're looking at a stagnant monoculture. I intend to cut off large prints the side of one board on occasion. Now, I'm serious. I just dozing off. This is going to be. I'm going to be getting awful groggy for about 15 minutes, and then by 15, a little while, I'll feel better. We can go back to it where you don't need to. You don't need to well. Okay, well. Um, yes. Goodness. It is rather hard to maintain a wakeful attitude. Now, you'll have to just bear with me while I get a little dozy snoozy for a little while. But I'll try and stay awake when I'll perk back up in a little while, and then we'll get back down to brass tacks. Now, when it comes down to it, okay, Star Trek, it has a fundamental, you can blame it on ontological, storyline inertia. Status quo is God, but only so much. Only so much. I'm sorry. If you were in the position of Q, if I were in the position of Q, I wouldn't have been lecturing them about their mistakes of 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, or 300. I'd be talking about the last century. I mean, like, he talked about their dark ages when he was condemning, but look at their present. They've been, they've for over 100 years, close to 100 years, they've been exposed to technology that literally game-changing technology, up to and including a system that created portals that could appear on any planet in the universe. And they've never touched any of it. Even the simple stuff, the advanced stuff. It looks real pretty in the lounge, but they're not using it. They nerd. No. Trying to gather my energy for the next lunge. Plop, Now, oh goodness. Legs are getting a little stiff. Now, did the music stop again? I hate it when it does that. Now, trifle chilly in here. Now, I say that a lot because I'm fishing for something to say. Let's compare Star Trek. Basically, it's a socialist society. They brag about having no money. They brag about how they've Abandon the profit motive. Well, congratulations, you've bypassed the amoeba. Every living thing has a profit motive. It is a fundamental attribute of life. Why do I say it? Because it is a natural function of life. The desire of any living organism is to obtain more resources while expending fewer. And what do you call the difference between those two? Profit. It is the natural function of every living organism to desire to acquire resources so that it may survive, thrive, grow, and eventually pass down its gotten gains to its progeny. Now, any creature that does not do that is not alive and will not stay alive for very long. So social, the idea that the Federation, with its complete lack of normal motivations, is a superior society. It's not. It's a dying society. The only difference between the science technology of the time of Kirk and the time of Picard is that everything has touch screens on it and the corners around it. Congratulations, you're an iPhone. And the thing of it is they have encountered artificial intelligences dozens of times in Kirk's era, yet they've only managed to create one themselves. They just they rationalize the fact that the Starship Enterprise still has no cloaking device, despite with a suicidally self-destructive plot device of a peace treaty. No. No civilization has ever thrived by maintaining a position of weakness. Societies that try to avoid conflict by looking inoffensive and weak and small and not worthy of dangerous people's attention, that just hastened their end. They don't produce, they haven't produced a really new starship in 100 years, and they haven't produced any new art, poetry, music, or culture since, and all they have is the detritus that was old when the 20th century was new. No. Star Trek is not an advanced society. Now we take Star Wars. That is a society, the Republic, which then became the Empire. They've got the same problem. They've not progressed. In fact, in some regards, they've gone backwards because many of the technological advances of the old Republic were superior to similar technology used in the new Empire. Take the AT-AT, those great big tall, armored transports. They look really impressive on a movie screen, but they are a terrible design. Now you look at the armored transports of the time of the Clone Wars, and in the movie the Attack of the Clones, they show, among other things, transports that are low slung to the ground, that have 6 legs rather than 4, and which have gun turrets on more than just the head. They actually made worse designs in the future. But in the case of Star Wars, their technological stasis, such as it is only about the lifespan of about 20 or 30 years, about the lifespan of Luke Skywalker. From the time he was a baby to the time he became a Jedi on the Death Star. I'm setting aside all the things like the bad technology, the poor design, things that make no sense, like the fact that they were still using tapes, and the fact that they didn't have things like guardrails, just silly stuff like that. Just set it aside. But overall speaking, you can blame the stagnation on the fact that they went from a free society, from a free republic, to a totalitarian empire. Basically speaking, you take a look at the technological condition of your average Soviet bloc country. It was dismal. It was dismal. They came out. The state of many of the countries had degraded. They show before and after pictures, before communism, after communism, of the same streets, and their ruins now. Places that were once thriving business streets, they look like they were a blasted war zone. And you look at their technology. I mean, they had shoes that were less comfortable than the boxes they came in, and cars that were a joke in the civilized world. I mean, they did one episode of. They've done several episodes of the. What is that car show with the British guys? Well, anyway, they examined some of the worst cars in the world. They do a segment on that, and they drag somehow these East Bloc, these Soviet Bloc automobiles, and they were awful. They were small, they were cramped, they were rusty, they were junk. And this is compared to what they were producing 40 years ago. You take East Germany. You consider what kind of cars Germany was producing back between during the First and Second World War, and compare them to what they had after the Cold War, and it's humiliating. It's disgraceful. It's tragic. So you can look at Star Wars, and there's an example of a society that was, basically space Cuba. That's the reason the Millennium Falcon looked like a piece of crap. Because everything looked like a piece of crap. Everything was rusted. Everything was broken down. Meanwhile, back in the Old Republic, they flew around in ships that were so shiny you could see your face in them. So we're talking two fundamental. Either both Star Trek and Star Wars, for different reasons, stand out as they could be used as examples of what socialism and communism and a totalitarian they could be used as an example of what a totalitarian state does to an advanced progressive society. They ruin it. And the only reason you didn't see all the rust and you didn't see the Trabants of the Star Trek world is because you spent all your time on a government-funded starship. Anyway, every show in Star Trek is about the further adventures of a government flagship that had, that basically the Federation dumped all its efforts into making look new and shiny. Even at the height of the Cold War, the leaders of the Soviet could live high on the hog. And they had, opulent appointments, luxuries, even while their people were starving in the streets. So, as a joke go, you asked a Soviet era Russian to make a pair of shoes, and they come out looking like the box they came in. Ask them to build something to kill Germans, and they turn into Einstein. Soviet area military equipment. They had some good crap. I'm a very tired man. That's how I do it. I'm always tired. I'm sort of setting a small goal for myself, is to get at least 2 comics done before I quit for the night. They're going to be funny looking. I'm sick of. Think I'm going to do a series in Nip and Tuck on. I'm just World of Warcraft. Nip and Tuck have been playing World of Warcraft. I'm just short on ideas, and I've that's about the only idea that's been poking me in the brain lately. and frankly, those are old ideas. No, that's terrible too. That's awful. That's awful right there. And redo. Let's see here. For anybody who's not reading the chat room channel, we got a wiseacre in there. Says, "How can you fall asleep while you're in the middle of talking?" Easy, I'm a tired man. I'm very tired. I'm always tired. Let's see. It's gonna just a brush size. That's not it. That's not the tool I'm looking for. So where'd it go? See, lasso, fill, polygon, frame, ruler, and I seem to be missing one of my regular tools. That's a little distressing. How did I lose one of the basic tools? That's tool property. Close and fill, paint unfilled area. That's very strange. It's very strange and it's very upsetting. It's very irritating as well. That tool was rather important to many of the things I do. I recently had to reboot the darn thing, the whole program, because it lost. I accidentally deleted several brushes and stuff. View. Workspace. It's a very basic tool I use all the time. It changes the width or size or width of a line. And it seems to have gone missing. Several of my tools have gone missing, in fact. I'm not happy with that in the least. Here we go. You see, very important when establishing. Can add depth and strengthen and soften certain lines. Very important tool. We also use to thicken lines. which makes certain things stand out more prominently. Takes a little twiddling to get the settings right. Now, I saw a video a little while ago. It was discussing why certain online games succeed while others fail, and it went a long way towards explaining particularly why so many superior games languish, while decidedly inferior ones seem to thrive. He had several, he had about 2 or 3 different points, but the most important one, I thought, he called it the 3 C's: content. I forget what the third one was. The second one was, but the third one was community. When you come online into an online role playing game, it's right there in the name. Massively multiplayer. The thing that makes an online game thrive. There are a lot of people that play through most of the games solo. There are quite a few that never engage in player versus player, that never join a guild, that never join up with parties or pickup groups or anything like that. and they just happily whittle their way through the game for years. But they are the long distance exception. And truthfully speaking, even if they are more inclined to play a game silently and by themselves, they would be very reluctant. I suspect their attitude, their interest in the game would diminish rapidly if they logged on and there didn't seem to be anybody around. If the only people you encountered in an online role-playing game were the NPCs, you would lose interest almost instantly. It's the board game of the 21st century, really. It's designed. The purpose of a game is to bring more than is the purpose of a game. Is to be entertaining, but it's also to bring several people together, two or more, to participate in an entertaining activity. And especially in Morphager, where role playing does occur, where people are exchanging tips on how to beat this dungeon or that dungeon, where people team up to cooperate and collaborate. It's a community. It forms a community. And if a game has a strong community, it will tend to do better. It will get better ratings. It will have a more enduring audience, and it will be more likely to survive. Now, you take my personal example. Okay, World of Warcraft, the guilds, the pickup groups, the missions, the game, they're all very heavily. The game is very heavily designed around getting a bunch of people together. Sometimes to an annoying degree, when you just want to get through something, and it recommends you get 2 or 3 other players to go on a particular mission. You can try and they don't prevent you. That's one thing, but you can try and solo a 3-mission game, a 3-player mission, but you'd better be a pretty high ranked. Your player character better be pretty well high ranked. And this new war mode. For most part, basically, you could turn off player versus player on your character, so that you could go around doing all the in-world PvP content in peace without being attacked by members of the opposite faction. But there was little benefit in turning on PvP while you were in the game world, in dungeons or raids or things like that. That was one thing, or in the like. But when you go out and you kill 7 trolls for Farmer Jones, your PvP was usually off, because there was no real benefit into it. It just puts you at more risk from being griefed by players with bad attitudes. But the new war mode setting, you have to go to your faction's capital city and turn it off or on for your character. And once it's on, among other things, it gives you extra abilities. You give your character extra abilities, makes them available, in the real world game. But it also increases your XP rate, the rate you learn experience, and your reputation gains. And it adds some nice juicy bonuses. And but I tried it. I tried war mode for a while, but it kind of sucked for me because I was going out. I was trying to do PvP content. The missions in the field. They say rescue little Timmy from the grizzly bears that kidnapped him, or things like that, or slay these evil trolls that are attacking our farm, that kind of thing, and I would go to try and pick up a new mission. They have these characters that are standing there, and they have this exclamation point over their head. I have a mission for you, and I would go and try to pick a mission, and suddenly, boom, out of the woods would come like a half a dozen or more horde players who would immediately just curb stomp me. Generally speaking, I was practicing, a hands-off approach. If I was out there doing PvP and I saw, if I stumbled across another player from the opposite faction doing PvP, like, it's cool. If my attitude was, if they didn't attack me, I didn't attack them. But then, let's put it this way: nobody likes to play fair in that game. Horde players are assholes. Okay, I'll say it. I can back this up with documentation. But they will lurk in hiding around mission givers and just wait for low-ranking players to show up so that the brave heroic 12 of them can gang up on him and stomp him into jelly. Real sportsmanlike. You know what I'm saying? And I was really not enjoying myself. But then I finally got one mission that required me to go out and do PvP in war mode if I was going to fulfill it. And I needed to, because until I took this mission, there were certain things that I couldn't progress on. So I said, oh crap, I'm going to be spending the next few hours just getting clobbered over and over and over again. And maybe I'll finally get lucky and pick one of the mob off before they kill me the 20th time. So I go out there and I'm playing, and it's going about like I predicted. I show up at this one place I'm looking around for a lone wandering horde player so I can challenge it, and here comes 7 of them, all maxed out with all the skills money can buy. And they proceed to cream me over and over and over again. And then other alliance players showed up. And suddenly it was team action. They eventually the alliance players offered me join their merry band, and we actually managed to hold our and actually got some gameplay in. And I eventually got my 10 scalps and went my merry way. The dirtbags were still waiting anytime. You couldn't get anywhere near the transport. You couldn't get anywhere near the portal that took you off the island. You couldn't get anywhere near the Griffin handler who would give you a ride home. And if you tried to use your Hearthstone to teleport home, they'd come stampeding down the hill to stab you in the back while you were standing there waving your hands in the air for 30 seconds. Like I said, they're a-holes. And but eventually I got home, but it went a lot better, because it's designed around, the game is designed around players playing together. It's the operative word. Now, and this is part of why World of Warcraft has lasted so long. It's because they have a strong community. The game is designed around making it very easy to form a community. In fact, it's almost vital. And it is vital. And now, over here on the other side, we talk WildStar. Now, WildStar, I love that game. I loved that game. The art was magnificent. The combat method, the combat was unique, fun, and and it hit that sweet spot between a live action, between a real time combat game and a point and click targeting system like World of Warcraft is. A very unique combat system. You'd have to see it to understand what I was talking about. Well, basically what I'm saying is that in WildStar, it mattered if you aimed. Anyway, the setting was intriguing. The humor was hilarious, and it was fun to play. But the thing of it is, they made some really critical errors. And the most critical one, most of the other problems they had, they were just out of the blue kind of things. But the real main problem is that they didn't have a community. When they opened up, they started the game, they started WildStar, and they had a huge surge of people signing up. Massive. And so they made a very critical error. They went out and promptly set up a bunch. They increased the size of their server stack, for one thing. They added more computers to this, so that it could handle the load. That was the first problem. They came in. They had so many people that logged on that the servers were overloaded. So they had to install a bunch more servers than they expected. But then they went and made almost as many realms as they had servers. And what that means is that they basically divided the player audience up into teeny tiny little bitty groups, each one on their own server. And what that meant is that there just wasn't that many people on each server. And you could wander around for ages and not run into another player character. And this was a disaster for forming the gaming community. Because you couldn't form a group, you couldn't find anyone. And this was really bad because one of the big things they tried to sell themselves on is that they had they had what they called war plots. Now, in World of Warcraft, they have special dungeon runs. They're called raids, and they can have up to 20 players. The max size, I believe, is 20 players at the same time, battling their way through a gigantic, a gigantic labyrinth, taking out boss monsters and getting huge loot, And everybody's screaming at you, "Don't stand in the fire! Move, move!" But these war plots, the idea was that you could get a bunch of guys together, pool your resources and build basically a fortress, complete with guns and robots and laser defenses and minefields and everything under the sun. And you could challenge other war plots to battle. And the servers butt those two, drop those two war plots on the same battlefield, and the two sides would go at it. And these war plots, 40 players on each side. 40 players. Now, even in a jam-packed game with millions of subscribers, getting 40 gamers together to do anything, much less build a fortress and then team up for a war plot challenge. That's like herding cats. It would be great for a LAN, an old-fashioned LAN where everybody brings their computers together for a big party and they all hook up together and play like that. But for online, where half of your team is probably living on the opposite, living in Australia and sleeping the opposite hours you do. Where half the players don't even speak the same language as their native tongue, and so like I said, like trying to herd cats. I always said like trying to scoop marbles into a pile on a tile floor with a garden rake. But the war plots just died. There were just not enough people. They had the service right up until the very last, but there were just not enough people in the servers to play these war plots. And this was a side thing. It wasn't part of the main, storyline or anything like that. But after all the work they put into it, big disappointment. And they were having problems with other things. The PvP tournaments, those were just regular 20 to 20, and they were still having, and because they split up the servers into so many realms, they weren't, there was no PvP, crowd, no PvP community, just not enough people playing it. In fact, they had to resort to having bots, NPC players to fill the ranks of some of the matches. I know I played them, and you'd be. You'd have like 5 regular players, and the other 15 were bots. It just went, and then you had this problem with a world that felt almost abandoned, and people dropped it in droves. They dropped the game in droves. And so, instead of reducing the number of realms, they shrank everything down again. And then eventually they had they turned it into turned everything into just two giant realms, one for PvP, one for PvE. And that didn't work either. Because then, and then they started offering new services. They offered free to play. They offered free, and people came rushing back in. And then they panicked and put up more servers, and it was like a yo-yo. Every time they'd have a rush of new players coming in, every time the players bled off, they would do something to try and bring them back. They would cut back on the servers, and they do something to try and bring them back. The players would come back, the servers would be overloaded, and bunches of people would be disgruntled because they'd be sitting there for half an hour waiting for the computer to let them log on, and then and they'd start losing players again, back and forth, and they could never quite seem to hit that sweet spot. They were too ready to yank things out and put them back in, and well, the gamer community never formed in the game. Their housing was about the only place where they had a growing community start to form. You see, because the housing system, if I've shown you my houses in that game on older episodes of this live stream. It is extraordinary the amount of creativity that the players get. Give them a plot of land, let them earn or build through crafts all sorts of things to put on it, and they will go nuts. I saw everything from a giant stuffed toy playhouse to a an imperial-sized starship. They turned their entire plot of land into a single giant spaceship, complete with with laser cannons and everything, and I've seen, and I saw others that they had turned them into a sort of a Mos Eisley spaceport. And me, I had one. The two I was really proudest of. One I had turned into a used spaceship car lot. And the other one I had turned into a jungle hideaway for an old recluse. An old adventurer who had just decided to hide away from the world. And complete with a ship covered in a ship house covered in moss, and a village of jungle natives that he moved into the neighborhood. And I believe I showed that all to you. And you saw, I did all of that myself. All the things I put on those plots of land, and I had several others too. That even stranger, more fascinating. But all of that with just the regular props and a few editing tools. And they had a community that was starting to form there, but people showing off their housing lots to all their friends online, and everybody running around visiting each other, and but it wasn't enough to save the game. It just wasn't. It was just poor mismanagement. Now I've seen a lot of people that there are a lot of people talking about morale being down at Blizzard. The people with World of Warcraft, they're saying that there's all sorts of problems and things are getting tight and things are getting grim, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think World of Warcraft is going to keel over dead anytime soon. Not by a long shot. Let me put it this way: World of Warcraft is so large that the annual Christmas surge of every year they get an annual Christmas surge of new World of Warcraft players. Signing up for a membership. And every January they have a big drop-off. of most or at least a good portion of those people. That annual cycle, just the people that sign on and then sign back off, is larger than most other online games have in audience entirely. They gain and lose the equivalent of an entire online game subscription audience every Christmas season and every January. And it's barely a fraction of their whole. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. It would take some really, really, really bad missteps for them to screw the pooch at this point. There's Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, McDonald's, they're up in the big leagues. They could easily handle surges that would engulf other companies. Even it's the massive mediocrity. I had Mickey Mouse, Microsoft, and McDonald's. Three big examples right there. They've been at it so long, they are so big that they can handle less than stellar years or even decades and still bounce back. So, a lot of this talk is just talk. They really don't have any, they really haven't done anything that says to me, insta-fail. Look, they bombed hard with this attempt, with this Diablo debacle. But that's just one game in their company. They can eat the losses on that one easily. In fact, I think I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to call it a wild guess that they could lose Diablo entirely, just let it blow completely out of the water, and still be doing just fine. Still be farting through silk boxers for decades to come. Not to say they haven't had problems with World of Warcraft. They've had a few. Warlords of Draenor was not a very well. Let's see. They had Warlords of Draenor. Then let's see. How many expansions have they had? 8, I think. Oh yeah, 8. You had the original uh, World of Warcraft. Then you had the Burning Legion. Then you had the Leech King. Then you had the what came after the Cataclysm. Original Cataclysm. Then after Cataclysm, you had Mists of Pandaria. There were a lot of people who got bent out of shape by that. Ooh, fairies! But nobody cares about them. The thing of it is that they really, the timing was kind of awkward. They came out with Mists of Pandaria about the same time that Kung Fu Panda had been in the theaters. In fact, they actually sued Kung Fu Panda because it turns out that they had Pandarans for a long, long time. They were only NPCs, and you saw them on rare occasions. I forget precisely where you saw them, but they had been in the game for a long, long time. So when Kung Fu Panda came out, as I recall, the people who did Kung Fu Panda started to make noises, and then the World of Warcraft people pulled out their notes and everything and showed, hey, we had this on years before you even thought of making this movie. So you really want to go with this lawsuit? And everybody agreed to just back off and leave it be. Which was a nice change of pace, from everybody trying to sue everybody. Anyway, Mists of Pandaria had mixed reception. There were certain problems with it. It was a departure from the usual, to say the least. And basically the gameplay, no matter whether you were playing Alliance or Horde, you came out as the bad guy. And you were railroaded. There was no choice you could possibly make to change the outcome. So you basically had to roll through this game and put up with being blamed for everything that went wrong with the Pandarans, including bad weather. Literally. And I guess that didn't really sit well with a lot of players. Yeah. And a lot of people got bent out of shape at playing, a game full of, round, cuddly panda teddy bear people. It just blew their egos out of the water. I'm picturing a little pimple-faced basement dweller. Take my level 60 Death Knight seriously! Yeah, I'm like, dang, pull the stick out, people. But it went okay, and then let's see, Mists of Pandaria. Then came Warlords of Draenor, which they made was really poorly received. It was much smaller than most of the other editions. Much fewer levels than other expansions had in them. Uh, Much smaller world, and it was added on. Just much smaller expansion, much fewer levels. It also, uh, well, the whole garrison idea was kind of a bomb. The idea was that for years, ever since the game had been started, players had been begging for player housing. And everybody was told, okay, we're going to give you player housing in Warlords of Draenor, in the Warlords of Draenor expansion. Everybody went, yay! Only they didn't give us player housing. You see, in a game, like I described in WildStar, player housing is basically where where you leave your character to rest and where you show off for other players. It's a vanity item. It's where you put up all the silly trinkets and toys and trophies you've had from playing the game. It's where you build your house, quote unquote, and decorate it and give it your own personal style. This was one of the things that WildStar, like I said, got incredibly right. But World of Warcraft got it incredibly wrong. Instead of the garrison, the idea is that in the Burning Crusade, you find out about a place called Outland, which is basically the broken remains of a world that was conquered by the Legion, which is basically a army of demons that are out to conquer the universe, and you go there and. Well, basically, Warlords of Draenor was when basically another version of Outland. It was actually another entire world, the Draenor world, and this was it was a different timeline, time travel shenanigans that. Well, the planet is still whole, and it's very different, and well, the idea is that you go to Draenor through this new portal to stop the Iron Horde, which is an alternate timeline version of the original Horde from the game. Well, basically, you build a garrison there as sort of an outpost. So first of all, your player housing is not in Azeroth. It's in this it's on this other entire world through a portal to an alternate timeline. So you got that disconnect there. And second of all, instead of being a place where you could display your player creativity or all your trophies or anything, basically nearly all the missions in Draenor are tied into your garrison in some way. Your garrison is incredibly utilitarian. You have several missions that require you to do something for your garrison, or well, basically, it turned it into. People refer to Warlords of Draenor as Warlords of Farmville because you bust your hump to try and max out your garrison. It has, every building in your garrison has 3 levels, and you try and unlock all the buildings and build all the buildings and get them up to level 3, and that's it. That's it. You can decorate a couple of places. You can decorate a couple of places with statues, and you can maybe hang. If you pass the right mission, you can hang up some banners from your guild. But that's it. There's no creativity. There's no flexibility. You can't decorate it the way you want. You can't lay it out the way you want. It's all preset. You can farm the hell out of it. You get an herb garden, you get a mine, and you even get a fishing hole where you can fish. Of course, the problem is that everything you get out of there, you only get 2 kinds of ore out of the mine, which are only useful in Draenor. The plants and herbs you get out of the garden are, again, only useful for crafting for recipes from Draenor. I think you're starting to get the picture. And to top it all off, you need insane amounts of everything to make even the simplest crafting items. So this is just an exercise in frustration, where you spend all your time running in circles. You run to the mine, and every day it's a maintenance cycle. You log on, you run to the mine, you mine, dig up all the ore deposits for the day. Then you go to the herb garden and pick all the herbs, and then well, you get the picture. It's it is not player housing, and it is very disappointing. And so, and to top it all off, you can get followers. As you do missions in Draenor, every now and then you'll find somebody who will decide, I'd like to come join your garrison, and you sign up that NPC to be one of the people. Literally, you'll see them roaming around your garrison, and you talk with one of your officers, and you can send these people off to do missions, which basically consists of you sitting down, opening up a window, sitting down at a little desk, opening up a window, picking a mission, picking some of your recruits, and then click sending them off. Spending some of your resources to send them off to do the mission, and trying to balance it so they have a 100. If you balance it right, they'll have a 100% chance of winning. In which case, you send them off, and then you wait anywhere from an hour to 24 hours to find out if they succeeded. It's Farmville, like I said. So, Warlords of Draenor did not do so hot with the fans. Pardon. Whew. Just a moment here. I'm having to click stuff. Now, yeah. Let's see here. Yes, I did hear about the Mexicans blocking the Hondurans. My question is, why are they blocking the Hondurans? Why are they saying? I want to know what they're saying. Are they saying go back to Honduras, or are they saying stay here? Is nicer than America? I don't know. They can't be. The Mexicans can't be too happy with an army of illegals marching through their country either. In fact, they got to be furious because the Mexican laws about illegal immigration make America's look completely lackadaisical. We're talking hardcore laws about immigration in Mexico. The leftists in America would be screaming bloody murder if we did it the way the Mexicans do it. Oh, I beg your pardon. Blah. I kid you not. There's always some a-hole that does something this incredibly stupid. You got to be wondering what's going through the mind of the Mexican president. I'm assuming they have a Mexican president. But I don't care how they run things there. But why is this dumbass not putting a stop to this? Because why is he wanting to hoping to embarrass the America and the American president? Is that what he's hoping for? Because he's going to regret the results. In case he didn't notice, Trump don't embarrass too easy. He's not particularly scared of kicking butt and taking names either. You gotta ask, you gotta wonder, what possible edge does he think aggravating America is going to give him? I forget who. It was. I don't know if it was the same president. So I'll say that much. But I do know that the Mexican president did He's done several things to try and agitate America and the American government over the illegals from his country getting into America, including having his government print out leaflets on how to sneak across the desert safely. Just, poke the bulldog with a stick again, why don't you, Junior? If America yanked all, can you imagine what would happen to Mexico if America decided to just shut the borders to them, to everything, including trade? It wouldn't be too good for us because closing your borders to trade. A tariff is basically a tax. It's an embargo against yourself. But I suspect we could handle it a lot longer than they could. You can't tell me that they're the biggest, richest, and closest country to them isn't the most important part of their trading breakfast, so to speak. I guarantee you that America could tolerate, a complete trade block against Mexico better than Mexico could tolerate it. All the guards in this comic all look the same, no matter who they work for. Now, I don't know. Important rule to remember. You ever notice that they're starting to refer, they don't call it socialism anymore. This isn't socialism, it's democratic socialism. Democratic socialism. Have you heard that one? Have you heard it lately? Here's something to take away. When somebody says democratic socialism, all that means is that they are admitting that a bunch of stupid people agreed to do it. A stupid action is no less a stupid action just because a lot of people agreed to do it. That's all democratic socialism means. Is that somebody talked a bunch of people into it. That doesn't make it any more virtuous than the regular kind of socialism that they get in through, legislative fiat or judicial action, or any of the other 10,000 little dirty tricks that they pull to get it established. I'll tell you what, let's say that this guy here that I'm drawing right now, he's the one that threw the horseshoe magnet at the Elfling Prince, at the Fey Prince. Give him a little backstory there. Yay. You got to figure anybody with that, with brass knobs that big is going to be up for promotion pretty soon anyway. So you're saying you punched a charging bull in the face and knocked it out? Yeah, I think you'll be captain of the guard pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, you'll do well as captain of the guard. How many of you have ever seen the movie Lady Hawk? Now, the movie Lady Hawk is a live-action movie. It came out in the 80s. The idea is that there's a man and a woman in love, this beautiful maiden, and the captain of the guard, and an evil priest, the bishop. A bishop of Aquila. he cast a curse on them. That during the day, she took the form of a hawk. At nighttime, he took the form of a wolf. And they find the whole story revolves around a thief who escaped from the dungeons of Aquila. The thief is known as Mouse, and this knight, this captain of the guard, finds him, tracks him down, and basically kidnaps him, and because he is the key to him getting his revenge on the Bishop of Aquila. Because the dungeons are supposedly inescapable, but the mouse found a way out. And it's a really good movie. It's some of it's hokey, but is very clever. For the most part, it's very clever, very well written, and I'm trying to remember the name of the actor that played Mouse. Very famous, actually. I believe it was the guy who played Ferris Bueller. In fact, I'm fairly 99% positive of it. And I'll tell you one thing is there's one part in that is absolutely spellbinding. Is they take the Lady Hawk, the man who turns into a wolf, and the thief. They end up taking shelter in a ruined castle, watched over by a hermit, and the hermit is actually the priest. The priest that knows the two lovers, and he tells. They don't meet him until like halfway through the movie, and he tells Mouse the story of how this came to be, how the curse fell upon them, and it is absolutely spellbinding. When he tells Mouse the story of the two lovers falling under this curse, and there is such absolutely just poetic moments, beautiful scenes, and it wasn't a big budget movie or anything like that, but it was quite good, to say the least. Especially for an 80s movie. The priest is saying, he tells the boy the story, and he says, "And now you are lost in it with the rest of us." And another time, for the first time, he sees, the first time Mouse makes the connection between the hawk and the girl. The hawk was shot with an arrow and badly wounded, and he turns the hawk over to the priest for the priest to care for, and he walks out of the room. He walks back in, and there is Lady Hawk lying there with an arrow sticking out of her shoulder. And he is actually boom. It hits him all once he realizes what's going on. And he says, he looks at her, he's scared to death. He says, "Are you flesh or are you spirit?" And she looks at him and she says, "I am sorrow." And I'm like, oh, that was a good movie. And It's a shame that more directors. It's a shame that the writers and the director, you don't see more people, push the boundary with that kind of work. You're trying to make, seriously trying to make art. I get the feeling that this was just a one-off. Uh, this was going to be another one-off B movie schlock uh, cheese reel, and there's no incredible special effects, no flashy magic, no nothing like that. But I'd rate it as one of the best fantasy movies made in in that era. It would stand up well alongside The Hobbit. Absolutely stunning story. Trying to save this, trying to save this, trying to save this. Okay, here we go. Menu Studio, save. Yep. I'm sorry if I fell a little too quiet there. Go. Oh, goodness. Blank page. Matthew Broderick, yeah. Yeah, I know. The Hispanic, a great number of certain Hispanics believe they're entitled to Texas and California. No. Nice try. We threw your butts out. Okay? You couldn't handle a bunch of guys hiding out in the Alamo. You lost. Sorry, no takebacks here. Nice try. Really? Oy. Whew, cold. Oh, yeah. Oh, my. Oh, my. Okay, if you'll excuse me a minute, I'm going to switch over to the... That's not it. That's not it. That's not it either. Slideshow. Yay! Okay. Yeah. Dumb clucks. I love people who try to... Have you ever heard some of the leftists try... Well, they try to use the Native Americans as a justification. Well, as far as the Native Americans are concerned, you're an illegal alien too. And you want to sit them down and just look them in the eye and go, yeah, and how did that work out for them? They just they can't think things through. They just can't think. They can, they just don't want to. Oh my, it's starting to get a little cold in here. Running out of brain juice. Man, I tell you, I really wish I could get my hands on some Monster right now. I might as well wish for the moon while I'm at it. used up the last couple of cups of flour I had. Well, actually, I have a bucket of flour stored in my closet, but I don't think it's good anymore. I bought this big bag of flour, and I got 2 buckets, and I lined them with plastic bags, and I poured the flour in, and I sealed them up. But I used one of the buckets for a long time, but the flour, it went stale. It just did not taste right. I must have done something wrong in how I stored it. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm close to calling it a night. Close. I feel well. I didn't even I accomplished about three. I accomplished less than. Still got to add the text. So I've accomplished 9/10 of a half of my goal. Whatever that is. 9/10 of 2/10. 9/10 times 2/10 is 18/20. 9/10 of a half is. That's more math than I can do in my head at this hour. I'm just. Okay. Look on the positives. Look on the positive. Focus on the positives. I did complete. I did basically complete the page. Basically completed the page. I've got an idea for a few strips for nip and tuck that I can work on starting tomorrow if I start early. Yeah. Okay, I've got any new commissions. I got a couple of commissions that we'll be working on too tomorrow. Well, I know who they go to. That's all that matters. Just this and that and odds and ends and these and those and. If I could feel young again. If I could feel young again, for just one, say, 1 hour a day, Okay. I'm just, yeah, it is 2:13 in the morning here. It has been 3.5 hours. I think we can safely call it a night. We'll try to have the show earlier. It's Wednesday. I'll try and have it earlier or something. The best hour it seems to be is about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Get a grand total of 10 people. According to my stats here, I've got something like 3 or 400 subscribers. I think I should shake my Patreon pan a little louder. Just a $1 subscription. Just $1 subscription. Something, anything. Seriously, with 400 people subscribing to Patreon, subscribing to my YouTube page, if y'all made a $1 Patreon pledge, and that's $1 a month, uno. That would be awesome. That would actually put me completely in the black. That would cover my rent, my rent, utilities, and all my bills and my groceries, necessity, stay alive money. So that would over the line. So what do you think? Let me put it this way: what do you think this live stream has to have, ought to have, must have? What do you think this live stream would need to have for you to say, what would it have to have for you to justify saying, okay, this is worth $1 a month? I wonder how many active subscribers. That's a good question too. Probably not even a fraction of that, but still. Let me ask you, what do you think would be worth $1 a month for this live stream? I can think of some things that would get it, would easily get it $1 a month, but I'm not going there. No, give me some feedback. What do you think that this live stream would need? Yeah, more drawing. Yeah, more drawing would be good. More drawing would always be good. So more drawing, but is there anything, any just ideas, more ideas? I'm going to be going for more drawing anyway. So what else? What else do you think would just more drawings like that? Yeah. Well, more drawing, obviously, then. I wonder about these people. They got the drawing, the live drawing, and then they show the drawing, and they sped the video up like 50%. So it's like, and 5 minutes later they've got a drawing, of the Sistine Chapel. Well, less buffering and lag. I can't do anything about that. I've tweaked and twiddled and fiddled and faddled, and there's just nothing really there that I can do, short of short of death threats to my internet carrier. I forget which country this was in, but there was one country that the internet is so bad. A couple of guys did a video. They put like a megabyte. I forget how many megabytes of files on a USB thumb drive. Tied it to a carrier pigeon and sent it off. It actually the carrier pigeon actually got there with the USB files before it finished downloading online from the the internet. Our internet is slow. Our internet is slow. Yeah. Some art for the Warcraft effect. That would be nice. That's one off. That'd be a one-off kind of thing, or several off kind of things. But yeah, might help if I actually wrote more of it. Of course, I need to write more of all of them. This is what happens. I get several ideas. I run off with the ideas. Now I've got I've got almost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half a dozen stories all in progress. Yeah. Okay. Well, I will see you all tomorrow. I'm aiming for a 5 o'clock airing. So if I can get, if I can get one thing in my life on a regular schedule, I can get everything else around it scheduled too. That's you sort of, if you can get one thing on your calendar regularly scheduled and stick to it, that makes it easier to build the bricks all around it, so to speak. If I draw Finnick, everybody's going to think he's that one fox from Zootopia. Man, that was the best scene in the movie. That was the best scene in the whole movie. I think just about. When Judy Hopps actually scams and out of the baby carriage comes, she hustled you. and his little fox stands up. He got a voice like a tuba. She hustled you good. Have fun with the fuzz, Nick. Okay. Okay, that's the nail to hang it on. That's the nail to hang it on. I'm going to try and get the show. If I can get the show airing every day at 5. That's a start for everything. You know, my life is disorganized. That's one of my biggest problems, and I lack the discipline to organize it. If I can get just one thing organized, you know, just put it there, click, then I believe, you know, this. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a start. And then I can, you know, then I've got, you know, well, I've got this scheduled for 5, so I can schedule this for 4, and this for 3, and you know, this is the goal. This is the plan. Okay. It's Wednesday. It's freezing outside. I'm not. Okay. I'll call it a night. Thank you all for sticking with me. Thank you all for your pledges, for your donations, for your viewership, for your readership, for your. And if you're feeling generous, I have a Patreon, which is linked in the image, and I also have a PayPal, which you can use the email up in the corner there. I also have you know, a website you can check out. For those who are watching this who yet don't know me, ha 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 ha. Maybe I'll start reviewing fan fictions. That's something. All right. But I will see you all tomorrow, God willing, and the creek don't rise. Quite literally, we get flooding around here. Okay. So, thank you all, and you all have yourself a nice night. Well, morning. Whatever.